In the magical heart of the North Pole, Santa Claus faces an unexpected challenge. His health is at risk, threatening the future of Christmas. With the help of the determined Dr. Holly Evergreen, he embarks on a journey to balance tradition and innovation, facing the resistance of Buddy Buttercookie, the head of the central kitchen and defender of traditional recipes. As the village divides between a love for indulgent sweets and the need for change, a culinary competition will decide the fate of Christmas traditions. Amid whole wheat cookies, caramel pies, and reflections on legacy, Santa discovers that the true magic of Christmas lies in taking care of himself and his community, ensuring that joy continues for generations to come. A charming story about transformation, unity, and the importance of finding balance amid tradition. The North Pole was buzzing with energy on the eve of the annual Thanksgiving celebration. Snowflakes gently fell from the sky, reflecting the colorful lights that decorated every corner of Santa's village. Elves hurried excitedly between the workshops and the central kitchen, carrying trays of cookies and boxes of decorations. At the heart of it all, Santa Claus, or Nick Claus as he was called by his closest friends, laughed heartily, reclining in his cushioned armchair. Nick was the very image of Christmas spirit. His white beard matched his hat and the smile that rarely left his face. In his hand, he held a plate full of gingerbread cookies, his favorites. Beside him, a mug of hot milk always seemed to be full, almost magically. Dr. Holly Evergreen watched the scene with a mix of concern and fatigue. The village's doctor and a longtime friend of Santa, Holly was a serious elf with sharp eyes and an analytical mind. She knew that behind the contagious laughter, there were signs that no one else seemed to notice. When Santa finished another cookie, Holly approached with firm steps. "Nick," she began carefully, "I think that's enough for today." "Oh, Holly," Santa said, laughing as he grabbed another cookie. "You know there's no such thing as enough at Christmas. It's the season for indulgence, right?" "And that's exactly what worries me," she replied, crossing her arms. "You're more tired than usual. Your eyes are heavy, and your cheeks are redder than usual. I want you to get a checkup tomorrow." "A checkup? Right now, with Christmas so close?" Santa tried to argue, but Holly didn't back down. "Yes, tomorrow," she insisted. "Nick, if you're not well, there won't be a Christmas for anyone." Before Santa could respond, Buddy Buttercookie, the head of the central kitchen, chimed in. "Oh, Holly, let the old man enjoy himself," he said, gesturing dramatically with a rolling pin in hand. "He works all year long and deserves to indulge. Besides, our cookies are a tradition. Who wants a Santa who eats salad?" The elves around laughed at Buddy's joke, but Holly remained serious. She stared at Santa, waiting for his response. After a long sigh, he nodded. "All right, Holly, but only because you asked." The next morning, the weather in the North Pole was colder than usual. The village clinic, typically quiet, was filled with shining equipment and magical instruments, reflecting the elves' efficiency in integrating health and technology. Santa sat in a reinforced chair, awaiting Dr. Pine's diagnosis. Beside him, Holly watched closely as Dr. Pine examined the results. The small elf adjusted his glasses, frowning. Finally, he looked at Santa and spoke. "Nick, the results aren't good. Your sugar levels are alarmingly high, and your cholesterol. Well, let's just say your diet has been more dangerous than you think." Santa tried to smile. "So, I'm sweeter than usual, huh?" Holly didn't laugh. "Nick, this is serious. You need to change your diet and routine. Now." "But my appearance." The kids expect a jolly, round Santa. "If I change, who will I be for them?" Santa scratched his beard, doubt clear in his eyes. "You'll be the healthy Santa they need," Holly replied, placing a hand on his shoulder. Dr. Pine added, "If you keep going like this, you might not be able to lead Christmas. That means all those children will be without presents, without the magic you bring. And we don't want that to happen, do we?" The doctor's words weighed heavily on Santa. He had always put Christmas first, but now it seemed he had to put himself first to ensure that Christmas would continue. After a long silence, he sighed. "All right, I'll try, but don't ask me to give up Buddy's cookies completely." Holly smiled slightly. It was a small step, but she knew the journey would be long. More difficult than convincing Santa would be convincing the whole village that changes were necessary. The news about Santa's health spread through the village like a strong wind on a snowy night. While some elves saw the changes proposed by Dr. Holly as an opportunity to modernize tradition, others, led by Buddy Buttercookie, viewed any alteration as an attack on the heart of Christmas. Early the next morning, Holly went to the central kitchen, determined to start the changes. The atmosphere was warm and chaotic as always, with elves preparing dough and decorating pies. Buddy was at the center, organizing ingredients with precision, his apron stained with icing. "We need to talk," Holly announced, stepping in with firm steps. Buddy looked over his shoulder, holding a bowl of bright red icing. "Ah, Dr. Holly, what can I do for you? I hope it's not another lecture on health." "That's exactly what it is," she replied without hesitation. "Santa's health is at risk, and we need to change our approach here. Less sugar, more balance. I want to start today with whole wheat cookies and lower-calorie alternatives." The elves around stopped what they were doing, exchanging uncomfortable glances. Buddy dropped the bowl and walked toward her, crossing his arms. "You're joking, right? What are you trying to do? Take the magic out of Christmas. These cookies are more than food. They're tradition. Tradition doesn't have to mean excess." "Buddy," Holly argued, meeting his intense gaze, "what's more important? Keeping outdated recipes or ensuring that Santa stays healthy for many more Christmases?" Buddy laughed, but his voice had a challenging tone. "Holly, with all due respect, no one wants a Christmas with oatmeal bars. The kids expect sweetness, and that's what we're going to give them." Despite the resistance, Holly began working, mixing a new recipe for whole wheat cookies. However, Buddy, determined to prove his point, decided to sabotage her efforts. He secretly added caramel syrup to the dough Holly was preparing, turning the cookies into something closer to a sugary dessert than a healthy alternative. When the cookies came out of the oven, Santa arrived to try them. He took the first bite and smiled. "Holly, these are amazing. If all your cookies are like this, I won't have any problem changing." Holly noticed Buddy's mischievous grin but decided not to confront him at that moment. Instead, she took it as a warning. The changes would be harder than she expected. Later that day, Santa felt the need to reflect on the changes that were being discussed. He knew that the kitchen was only the beginning of a larger conflict. Feeling overwhelmed, he went to the village's ancestral library, a place where he always found comfort and inspiration. The library was a vast space, illuminated by magical lights floating in the air like tiny stars. Tall shelves housed records of centuries of Christmas history, including diaries from the Claus family who came before him. Santa ran his fingers along the shelves, feeling the weight of the responsibility he carried. Finally, he found a diary with a faded red cover and the name Nicolina Claus engraved in gold. Curious, he opened the diary and began to read. Nicolina, one of the founders of the Christmas tradition, wrote passionately about her purpose. One passage caught his attention. "The magic of Christmas is about joy, strength, and balance. Our work is to inspire generosity and well-being, not excess." At some point, we veered off course, turning Santa into a symbol of indulgence when we were always meant to be a symbol of harmony. Santa sat in silence, reflecting on those words. For years, he had accepted the image of the jolly old fat man as part of who he was. But now, he understood that his true mission went beyond that. He needed to change, not just for himself, but to honor the essence of what it meant to be Santa Claus. Carefully putting the diary away, Santa left the library with a new sense of determination. He knew the village was divided, and that the road ahead would be filled with challenges. But he also knew he couldn't give up. On the way back, he began to form an idea. If tradition and change were in conflict, perhaps it was possible to unite them in a way that brought out the best of both worlds. The next morning, Santa called for an extraordinary meeting in the village's main hall. The room, usually warm and festive, was charged with tension. The elves, accustomed to Santa's charismatic and carefree leadership, were intrigued to see his serious expression as he walked to the center of the room. holding Nicolina Claus' diary. "Friends," Santa began, his voice calm but firm, "I have something important to share. In the past few weeks, my health has been a concern. But I want you to know that this is not just about me. It's about the future of Christmas." The elves exchanged uneasy glances as Santa flipped through the diary. Nicolina Claus wrote here that the true spirit of Christmas is balance and harmony. "For years, I was led to believe that being the jolly, fat man was part of my role. But now I see that this is a reflection of traditions that have lost their original purpose. We need to change." A murmur of discomfort grew among the elves. Before Santa could continue, Buddy Buttercookie stood up abruptly. "Change? You mean abandoning everything that makes Christmas special?" His voice thundered through the room. "These cookies, these pies, this sweetness is what defines Christmas. You want the children to see a Santa who eats sugarless cookies and delivers presents with a tired face." Some elves nodded, but others looked uncertain. Santa raised his hand, asking for silence. "Buddy, this isn't about abandoning anything. It's about evolving. What's the point of keeping traditions if I can't be here to deliver them? This isn't just about me, it's about all of us." Holly intervened, her voice firm and authoritative. "What we're proposing is an adaptation. We're not destroying anything. We're ensuring that Christmas continues. We can't ignore reality." Buddy crossed his arms and stepped forward. "You might be right about Santa's health, but I won't allow you to change everything without a good reason. If this is so important, prove that your vision works." He looked directly at Santa, challenging him. "Let's have a competition." Santa frowned. "Competition," Buddy explained. "My team against you and Holly. We'll present our versions of Christmas dishes at the village's grand banquet, and the elves will decide. If you win, we'll accept the changes. But if we win, everything goes back to normal." The elves murmured, intrigued by the proposal. Santa exchanged a look with Holly, who nodded. "I accept," Santa said, his voice filled with determination. "May the best flavors win." The days leading up to the banquet were intense. The central kitchen became a battleground of culinary creativity. On one side, Buddy led his team, crafting increasingly extravagant desserts. Caramel pies with shiny toppings, double cream-filled cupcakes, and triple chocolate cookies. On the other side, Holly and Santa worked diligently to create alternatives that balanced flavor and health. For the first time in years, Santa found himself literally getting his hands into the dough. He helped mix ingredients, tasted different combinations, and discussed with Holly how to keep the Christmas essence in the dishes. "It has to be special, Holly," he said while carefully shaping a spiced cookie. "The children and the elves need to feel the Christmas spirit in every bite, and feel that they can eat without guilt or worry," Holly added, smiling. They created a diverse menu: whole wheat cookies with a hint of ginger, honey cakes with less sugar but still rich in flavor, and fruit cakes with a smooth texture and notes of traditional spices. Meanwhile, the tension between the groups in the village grew. Elves supporting Buddy talked about how the changes would take the soul out of Christmas, while those on Santa's side argued that taking care of their leader was essential. However, there was a general doubt. Would it be possible to balance tradition and innovation? On the big day, the village's main hall was transformed into a celebration space. Floating magical lanterns lit the ceiling, and long tables were adorned with red and gold tablecloths. The aroma of desserts filled the air, blending Buddy's traditional sweetness with the balanced new scents from Holly and Santa. The elves were eager as Buddy and Santa stood face to face. The master of ceremonies, an elderly elf with a gray beard, declared, "Let the flavors begin." Buddy flashed a confident smile at Santa. "I hope you brought more than oatmeal bars, Nick." Santa calmly responded, but firmly, "And I hope you've made more than sugar and calories, Buddy." With this exchange, the dishes began to be served, and the competition promised to be as intense as it was emotional. The grand hall fell silent as the first dishes were served. On one side of the table, Buddy and his team presented their extravagant creations. Tall pies with layers of caramel, cupcakes decorated with sparkling sugar stars, and cookies filled with a generous amount of chocolate cream. The elves applauded the presentation, delighted by the visual opulence. On the other side, Santa and Holly placed their dishes. While less extravagant, the whole wheat spiced cookies, the balanced honey cakes, and the fruit cakes with natural sugar exuded nostalgic and inviting aromas. They evoked the Christmas spirit in a more subtle yet equally powerful way. "Let's begin with Buddy's dishes," announced the master of ceremonies, an elf with a deep voice holding a golden spoon. The elves began to taste the traditional desserts. Laughter and exclamations of pleasure filled the hall. "These cupcakes are incredible," said one excited elf, while another praised the filling of the cookies. However, as they continued tasting, some expressions began to change. "It's good, but too sweet," commented a young elf. Others began to agree, noticing that the excess sugar made it hard to keep eating. Then it was time for Santa and Holly's dishes. Silence returned to the hall as the elves carefully sampled the cookies and cakes. An older elf closed his eyes as he chewed a honey cake. This reminds me of the Christmases from my childhood," he said, moved. Pippa, the little elf who helped in the kitchen, stood up with a cookie in hand. "These are different, but in a good way. They're not as sweet, but I like that. I feel like I can eat more without feeling heavy." Pippa's simple observation made the group laugh. Gradually, more elves began to praise Santa and Holly's creations. The competition was becoming more balanced. Seeing that he was losing ground, Buddy stood up from his chair. "Do you really want Christmas to change like this? To abandon our traditions for something so simple?" Santa calmly stood up, placing his hands on the table. "Buddy, tradition isn't an excuse to resist change. We're not abandoning what makes us special. We're ensuring we remain strong to celebrate Christmas for many years to come. Tradition is about meaning, not stagnation." Santa's words hung in the air, followed by a long silence. Then, the master of ceremonies called for the vote. The elves raised their hands, and the result was clear. Santa and Holly won by a large majority. Buddy, defeated, sighed and walked over to Santa. He shook his hand firmly. "You won this time, but don't think I'll make it easy next time." Santa smiled. "I don't expect you to, and maybe we can work together to create something even better." In the days following the banquet, the mood in the village began to shift. Although the transition wasn't immediate, the elves started to accept the new recipes. Holly and Buddy, once adversaries, began to work together in the kitchen, combining Buddy's creativity with Holly's balanced approach. Buddy even created a new dish, snow cookies, which combined traditional flavors with healthier ingredients. They became an instant hit, showing that tradition and innovation could coexist. Santa, for his part, immersed himself in his new routine. His walks with Dasher became moments of introspection and connection. He felt more energy and vitality than he had in years, and this was reflected in his work. Santa's health became a priority for everyone in the village, and the elves realized that taking care of their leader was essential to keeping the magic of Christmas alive. On Christmas Eve, as he adjusted the sleigh for the gift delivery, Santa received a special letter. It was from a girl named Emily. "Dear Santa, I heard you're taking care of your health. That's wonderful because I want you to keep visiting us for many, many Christmases. Merry Christmas." The simple but sincere message brought tears to Santa's eyes. He carefully kept the letter and climbed into the sleigh. Looking at Holly and Buddy, who were among the elves gathered to see him off, Santa smiled. "Thank you, my friends. This Christmas is the beginning of something new, and I couldn't have done it without you." Dasher led the sleigh through the skies, and Santa felt the cold wind on his face as the village lights faded into the distance. He knew this year's Christmas marked a new chapter, not just for him, but for everyone at the North Pole. Back in the village, Holly looked at Buddy and said, "So, what do you think about starting to plan for next Christmas?" Buddy laughed, adjusting his apron. "Only if I can add an extra pinch of frosting. Healthy, of course." And so, the North Pole found balance between tradition and innovation, showing that the true spirit of Christmas is about adapting and growing while preserving what truly matters: joy, unity, and caring for others.